Hey everyone, and welcome back. Just a quick note before we get started. This deep dive into the mysterious bond between Q and Picard is the conclusion of a 3-part series that I put together on Q, the godlike entity with an attitude.
Oh, please.
In the first video, I presented a case for how Q's trial actually saved humanity, and suggested that Q is not the villain he's been made out to be, but has actually been a secret ally of Picard's all along. In the second video, I laid out how Picard and Riker both willfully misunderstood and mistreated Q across the next generation, largely as a consequence of Q's trial to save humanity.
Have you understood any part of what you tried to tell me?
Misanthrope.
We don't have time.
When you attack my people.
We know you're behind
And
this.
it's enough, damn it. Either leave or finish.
So let's delve in and explore Picard and Q's deeper relationship, and we're starting right now. Our meta journey takes place on a mythological level. Well, we'll explore the next generation's main cast of characters, not as mere fictional figures, but as a pantheon of gods, the members of which have an eerie similarity to the Egyptian pantheon, especially Picard, Dr. Crusher, and young Wesley, who we could consider to be modern incarnations of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, the original Trinity. But in keeping with our modern worldview, the members of our next generation pantheon have had their supernatural powers replaced with futuristic technology. And instead of residing in a mythological realm outside of linear time and space, our pantheon soars through the limitless depths of outer space in their heavenly abode, the Starship Enterprise. Yet there is an outcast among our pantheon who does possess godlike powers, who does dwell outside of time and space. His counterpart would most likely be Set, the Egyptian trickster god, lord of the desert, storms, and chaos. Q seems to possess innate supernatural powers, where the rest of our next generation pantheon must rely mainly on futuristic technology to perform their miracles. So let's compare Q's abilities with Federation technology, starting with teleportation.
Energize.
It takes, on average, 15 seconds to transport. In the same amount of time, Q can teleport himself or others a whopping 18 times. That's over 10 times faster. Note how Q's transportation time got much quicker after the first season. Q can create anything he wishes.
This is from Europe's Napoleonic era, sir. Late 18th, early 19th centuries.
Napoleonic equipment on an alien planet, one so different it has twin moons.
Well, as you said, I'm nothing if not imaginative.
Or manipulate any material object, including humans. While replicators can only produce inanimate material. Where Crusher must rely on her medical devices to heal her patients, Q has innate healing powers.
Their wounds. Only the Q can do that.
And can even bring back the dead.
His vital signs are stable.
Something that Crusher cannot do even with all her technology. And although Q never engages in mind control, another Q named Amanda demonstrates that he could have easily done so had he chosen to.
But you can't make someone love you.
Can't I?
Oh, Amanda. You are so beautiful.
And while mind control is something that our pantheon would likewise never do, the nefarious Romulans have the technological ability to do so. Q can control the elements of nature, including the weather.
A tornado touched down in only one spot. You can never predict the weather.
Q is immortal.
Immortality is one of the defining qualities of being a Q.
Even Data, though technically immortal, was still susceptible to catastrophic damage.
Goodbye.
And Q is also a world creator.
Twin moons. Where are we?
Considering the power demonstrated by Q the last time, anywhere. Assuming this place even exists.
And this is England, or Q's recreation of it.
Something that even the best technology is not quite perfected.
Will return after these messages. We now return to Metatrek.
Why should Star Trek contain a character such as Q? I believe that Q is an example of the Archetypal Shadow. The Shadow is a Jungian archetype that is formed from the repressed aspects of our psyche that are socially unacceptable and shunned in public. Over time, these unacceptable qualities form a subpersonality of their own in the unconscious. In Star Trek's hyper-real story world, these shadow elements seem to manifest as separate characters. While Q is our prime example, the Shadow can manifest as a family member, a fellow Starfleet officer, or even Picard himself. These are but a few of the many Shadow characters that have appeared in Star Trek. Almost always, these Shadow characters are synonymous with the antagonist of the story. And the antagonist, likewise, almost always acts as a villain. This helps explain why so many consider Q to be one of Star Trek's greatest villains, a designation I don't believe he deserves. You may be wondering why I'm switching from mythological representations to psychological archetypes. Mainly because they are expressions of the same universal ideas. According to Carl Jung, mythology is a primitive form of psychology, or, to say the same thing in reverse, psychology is a modern form of mythology. So who then is Q a shadow of? The answer, of course, is Captain Picard. Let's explore this further. Q is the embodiment of all the archetypal energies forbidden to Picard. Q is what Picard cannot be.
The Continuum didn't think you had it in you, Jean-Luc.
And therefore, by definition, Q is a shadow of Picard. As I noted before, viewing Star Trek as a mythology, Picard holds the equivalent position in the Next Generation's pantheon as the high gods of old. By all rights, he should possess the same supernatural powers and abilities as afforded those gods of old. But, since Starfleet officers cannot contain innate godlike powers, Picard has been divested of these primal energies. And what should happen at the very moment that these powers should have been bestowed upon Picard? Another figure arrives on the scene that just happens to possess all those same powers. Let's think of the timing of Q's reveal to the galaxy, the significance of which should not be underestimated. While not causally connected, a deeper meta-connection exists between Q's appearance and Picard's command of the Enterprise, which reflects the connection between Q and Picard themselves. That they happen in tandem constitutes a synchronistic event. I make it a rule to always take note when events occur at the same time. It's usually a major indicator that those events are meaningfully connected. I believe this is a prime example of that pattern at play. Hence, Star Trek still contains the same archetypal energies afforded to any other mythology, and they're just as vital and important. These archetypal energies, like all forms of energy, cannot be created nor destroyed, but only converted from one form to another. As Joseph Campbell points out, if one or another of these basic elements of the archetypal pattern is omitted from a given myth, it is bound to be somehow or other implied. By the time the Next Generation rolled around, these energies had grown too strong to be simply banished or merely contained. A whole metaphysical realm had emerged.
This is the Q continuum?
This is a manifestation of the continuum that we hope falls within your level of comprehension.
And its main representative had to be contended with over and over again.
Q, what is going on?
After these messages, we'll be right back. We now return.
Next, there's the crew's behavior towards Q, where they treat him like a shadow figure. And when shunned, Q acts as one would expect a shadow character to act, by becoming disruptive and even destructive if it comes to it. On one occasion, he lashes out until Picard has no choice but to call upon him for help.
You wanted me to say, I need you? I need you!
See my video on how Picard and his crew mistreated Q for a detailed analysis of this aspect. And then there's Q's special interest in Picard.
Q's interest in you has always been very similar to that of a master and his beloved pet.
His proclamations of friendship.
Because in all the universe, you're the closest thing I have to a friend, Jean-Luc.
Picard's own observations about Q.
Well, he's always had a certain fascination with myself in particular. I think he has more than a passing interest in what happens to me.
And the fact that Q cannot bear to let Picard die.
There's still part of me that cannot accept that Q would give me a second chance. I owe him a debt of gratitude.
To me, these events indicate that Q is not just a shadow manifestation of Picard's persona of captain, but that he's actually a manifestation arising from somewhere deeper within Picard, perhaps as a shadow aspect to Picard's archetype of the self. Let's take a moment here and explore Q's name. He's named in honor of Janet Quarton, the founder of the first Star Trek fan club in the UK. Roddenberry often chose names with a double meaning hidden within, and I believe that Q is no exception. First off, it is notable that he shortened the name Quarton down to its initial, Q. He could have left the name as it was, Although Q is an admittedly better sounding name for the character, and Q Continuum does roll off the tongue easier than the Quartan Continuum. That said, I do see a certain significance in reducing the name to the letter Q, and a potential secondary meaning. Roddenberry was undoubtedly a well-read and well-educated man, so I'd be very surprised if he wasn't aware of the hypothetical Q document. Once again, Q is the initial of a word, this time Quelle, which in German means the source. This document is a theoretical list of sayings believed to be the source of the biblical Gospels, and herein lies the double meaning. By naming this godlike character Q, Roddenberry could be suggesting that he is the source, or that he emanates from the source. But the source of what? In terms of the microcosm, the source from which Q emanates could be the core of Picard's psyche, his self, which, in archetypal terms, would be at the core of his unconscious. According to Jung, the self is that which is closest to God contained within us.
And I'm God.
In terms of the macrocosm, the source would most likely be the Q Continuum, which, in TNG's story world, is perhaps the source of creation, of the universe itself. Since Q is both singular and plural, either meaning could apply, depending on the context. Source is also the root of the title sorcerer, or one who draws upon the source. Q's godlike powers would make him a type of sorcerer. In a sense, Q is to Picard what Merlin is to Arthur, but due to Star Trek's worldview, Picard is not receptive to Q's presence.
You are not God!
Nor his magic.
Blasphemy!
We've embarked on a meta-journey into the deeper connection between Q and Picard, and explored how Q might be an embodiment of the Archetypal Shadow, a consequence of Captain Picard's mythological position as the high god of the next generation's pantheon. In our exploration, we've bridged the realms of the mythological gods and psychological archetypes, and discussed how they are two sides of the same cosmic coin. And within the name Q, we find hidden meaning, suggesting that he is the source, the embodiment of ancient energies deep within Picard's unconscious. As we end this exploration, I'd like to leave you with this thought. In a world where Star Trek's mythological subtext collides with its rational worldview, Q remains an enigmatic figure. He is the embodiment of the ancient mysteries in a futuristic era. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this Patreon exclusive video. Be sure to join me and these other patrons over on Patreon for more exclusive content by following the link in the description below. And until next time, live long and prosper.